All right, team, let's get right to it. I'm here to walk you through a major decision point for us, Azure DevOps versus GitHub. And let's be clear, this isn't just about picking some new software. This is a strategic decision that will shape our engineering culture, how fast we can innovate, and how we govern our projects for years to come. So let's treat it with that level of importance.
I love this quote because it just cuts right through the noise. It perfectly captures the dilemma we're in, right? We have two fantastic platforms, both from Microsoft, and each one is an absolute beast in its own arena. Our job today is to figure out how we bridge that gap in a way that makes sense for us.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack this whole paradox. Why did two competing platforms even exist? Then, we'll put them head-to-head across three areas that matter most to us: planning, the developer experience, and of course, security. And finally, we'll pull it all together into a single, clear, strategic recommendation.
To really get this right, you first have to understand how we ended up here. This wasn't some kind of accident. It's the result of a very deliberate strategy. Microsoft built one of these platforms from the ground up for the enterprise, and they acquired the other one after it had already won the hearts and minds of pretty much every developer on the planet.
This slide really shows you their different DNA. Think of it this way. Azure DevOps grew up inside the corporate world. It started as TFS, built for structure, process, and managing the entire application lifecycle. GitHub, though? It was born in the wild, out of the open source movement, prioritizing collaboration and making developers' lives easier. Those different origins are key to everything that follows. Okay, let's dive into our first critical area, enterprise planning and governance. This is all about the big picture, how we manage, track, and get visibility across hundreds of projects and teams.
This is the million-dollar question for our program managers, our stakeholders, and anyone in compliance. Which platform gives us that top-down view, that traceability from an idea all the way down to a line of code that we absolutely need to run a business of our scale?
When you put them side by side like this, the gap in project management maturity is, well, it's huge. It's not even close. Azure Boards is a true enterprise-grade system. You've got this deep hierarchy from epics down to tasks, real sprint planning tools, and reporting that hooks right into Power BI. GitHub Projects is cool, it's flexible, but it just doesn't have that enterprise muscle.
So, for planning and governance at our scale, Azure Boards is the clear winner. It's built for the kind of structured, auditable, and traceable work we do. It's designed to connect the boardroom strategy directly to what the developers are shipping. That's a non-negotiable for us.
All right, we've talked about the what and the why of planning. Now let's switch gears and talk about the how. Let's look at the developer experience, because this is where the code gets written. This is where innovation actually happens.
And this question is about so much more than just where we store our Git repos. It's about developer velocity. It's about getting rid of friction. And frankly, it's about winning the war for talent. Top engineers expect to work with the best, most modern tools, and we need to provide that.
When you look at CI/CD, you can really see those different philosophies at play. Azure Pipelines is powerful. It has a great visual editor, and it's fantastic for those really complex releases with lots of approval gates. GitHub Actions, on the other hand, is all about as code. It's YAML-based, incredibly flexible, and built around this idea of responding to any event in the repository. And this number right here, over 20,000, this is the absolute game changer for GitHub Actions. This is the number of community-built actions in its marketplace. Need to deploy to some niche cloud service or integrate with a new security tool? I can almost guarantee someone has already built an action for it. That saves our developers an insane amount of time. So the big takeaway here is pretty obvious. GitHub is the platform developers already know and, let's be honest, love. It's where the community is. And with native AI from Copilot and cloud dev environments with code spaces, well, it's an ecosystem that's built to make developers faster, smarter, and happier. Okay, that brings us to our final and maybe the most important pillar, security. In our line of work, security isn't just a feature on a checklist, it's the bedrock of everything we build. We have to ask ourselves, how do we build security into the process from day one? The old way of doing things, where security is the last toll booth you have to pass through before release, that just doesn't fly anymore. We have to shift left and find these problems the moment the code is written. GitHub's answer for this is called GitHub Advanced Security, or GAS, and it stands on three really strong legs. You have code scanning with its world-class code QL engine, you have secret scanning to make sure nobody accidentally checks in a password, and you have dependency scanning to protect our open source supply chain. Now you might be thinking, hey, wait a minute,
Microsoft makes GHS available for Azure DevOps too, and you'd be right, which is great. But, and this is a big but, there's a persistent innovation gap between the two.
Here's the deal. For the absolute latest, most advanced, AI-driven security features, the native GitHub platform is always going to be ahead. Things like having Copilot automatically suggest a fix for a vulnerability. That's exclusive to the native GitHub experience, and that is a massive strategic advantage.
So after looking at planning, development, and security, it's pretty obvious that neither platform is the perfect one-size-fits-all solution. So what do? Let's pull this all together into a recommendation that's clear, actionable, and smart.
We are recommending a hybrid, better together strategy. It's simple. We use the best tool for the job. GitHub will be our home for all our code, our CI/CD pipelines, our security scanning, and the entire developer experience. Azure Boards will remain our system of record for planning, for governance, for that high-level portfolio management. And here's the kicker. This is incredibly cost-effective because our GitHub Enterprise license already includes access to Azure DevOps for free.
And let me just hammer this point home. This is not a migration. We are not ripping out one thing to replace it with another. We are creating an integrated, complementary stack that is far more powerful than what either tool could give us on its own.
And this, right here, is the magic of this strategy. We get to make two of our most important groups incredibly happy at the same time. Our developers get to work in the modern AI-powered environment they want, which makes them more productive. And our leadership keeps the powerful planning and reporting tools they need to steer the business. It's a true win-win. Look, just like I said when we started, this was never just about the tools. It's about the kind of engineering culture we want to build. With this decision, we are consciously choosing to create a culture that values both strong, disciplined governance and lightning-fast developer velocity.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The question isn't which tool anymore. The question is, what kind of culture are we? Do we want to be a governance-first organization or a velocity-first organization? Our recommendation is that we refuse to make that trade-off. We can and we absolutely should engineer our systems to give us both.